I have just become a huge fan of this new show on BET, American Soul. Let's talk about it. Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to KRS TV. This is your boy Kenny, and this is American Soul Season 1, Episodes 1 and 2. Episode 1 is called Man is First Destiny, and Episode 2 is Continuous Revolution in Progress. Yo, this show is awesome. It's actually, based on the life of Don Cornelius in Soul Train. His son, Tony Cornelius, is one of the co-executive producers, and I think Robert Townsend is the director. And it has a great cast, and I love this show because it's not only showing Don, it's really showing how Soul Train was a movement. Not only a movement of social awareness, but it was also a movement for entrepreneurship. It was a movement of showing black people in a positive light. And Soul Train is a phenomenon that still is affecting us to this day. I mean, if you watch the Soul Train Awards, definitely, Soul Train has completely changed the game for music as well as business. And a documentary I would suggest for you guys to check out is Soul Train, Hippest Trip in America. Great documentary, and it really goes to show how Soul Train impacted how Soul Train impacted the country as well as the world. So, episode 1, we actually, in the beginning, we see that Don Cornelius is watching Gladys Knight perform Neither One of Us on Soul Train, and the date is February 1st, 2012, and that's when, sadly, Don Cornelius had committed suicide. And we're literally seeing him watching TV, and he's crying, and he pulls a gun to his head. And then it goes back to Chicago, 1971, where Soul Train is a big hit in Chicago, and now he's trying to take the show nationally. But in order to land a national syndication, he needs a top 10 act. And the top 10 act he's going for is James Brown, because he was saying that, because they had mentioned Eddie Kendricks, who's a solo artist by this time, but they said that, Eddie Kendricks is not the same as having all of the Temptations, so so they were really fighting to get, a big act to launch, the national syndication of Soul Train. And we also get introduced to some of the Soul Train dancers. One is a brother and sister, Kendall and Simone. They're very talented. They're great singers. And Simone also has a boyfriend named JT, who's also very talented. And we also, meet Don Cornelius's wife, who was really that backbone that he needed. That was the woman that he could be himself around, and he can break down, and she was always there to support him. So we're seeing all this go on. And we also see him, reading, books, and he's reading the definition manifest destiny, man is first destiny. And we see that this was the blueprint in which Don acted on. That he was going to make his dream a reality, and that his destiny he was going to see through, and he was never going to deter from what he wanted to accomplish. And then we also get a scene where he gets pulled over first day in Hollywood, and he gets harassed by the police. It's crazy because this same shit is happening right now. And they pretty much, Don Cornelius was also a former police officer, with the Chicago Police Department. He also served in the Army. So this was a man who was proud, militant, and a man who knew what he wanted and was going to go to hell to high water to get what he wanted. And that ingredient is what made Soul Train a success, was Don Cornelius in and of himself. And we see him getting harassed by the police, and he was saying, and the police officer was definitely racial profiling, and kind of told him heads or tails. Heads, I'll lock your black ass up, or tails, you can sing for me. And we just see that Don just gave this serious look to the police officer because he was not going to back down. Luckily, they had an actual shootout that they had to get to, so they left him, but Don was pissed because this is the reality that we're even facing with right now in today's society with police brutality and police humiliation. And I thought that was very powerful. And then we actually see, we also meet Tess. Tess is the dance director. She was a prominent dancer in Germany, and here it is now. She's a working woman who's now the dance director, and her and Don do not have a great relationship because she always feels that Don always undermines her. She always feels that he always puts her down. He doesn't take her seriously. But later on, because Don was very kind of cold with her because he came in one scene where she was auditioning the dancers and he pretty much told them all to go home. Just shut her audition down. And she was upset about that. And she was saying that, look, some of these guys are great dancers. He says, I don't want great dancers. I want stars. Stars that will create a dance craze. And if you can't handle that, I hire somebody else to do it. And she was saying that you hired me because I'm the best at what I do. He's like, no, I hired you because you were cheap. So shit like that will definitely make somebody feel undervalued or, underappreciated. And we see this go on with Tess because she ends up writing a letter of resignation. We see that she has a boyfriend who's also a police officer. He's a black guy. And he's definitely in her corner. He says that, look, do what you feel is right. And no matter what you do, I'm going to be by your side. So she actually has that support at home, but doesn't really have that same support in the workplace. And then we actually see where Don goes to the Hollywood studio for the first time, which became Soul Train's home. It had rats in it and everything. But while he was there, he was getting visions of seeing James Brown and seeing all these acts. So he had a vision. And he trusts that he was going to make that vision a reality. And then we also see, as far as the characters Kendall, Simone, and JT, they perform for this nightclub that's actually owned by a guy named Gerald Ames, who also plays a key part in Soul Train 2. They sing Smiling Faces, and they killed the audition. They were all about it, but then Gerald Ames was like, how old are you, sweetheart? Talking to Simone. She lied and was saying that, oh, she's 18. She's like, oh, so if I check your ID, will it say the same thing? She's like, well, I'm gonna be 17 soon. He says, well, boo-boo, I love you guys, but you ain't gonna mess up my liquor license. So he fired them off, on the spot, And we see that there's this tension between Kendall and JT because Kendall, is a single father. His son is, his mother's Mexican, and it was his first girlfriend, and they had a little boy. And, he's, struggling with that, as well as the fact that he has been called to serve in Vietnam. And their father is already in Vietnam. And then you got JT, who's also dealing with issues, dealing with the fact that his mother is a drug addict, and he's the only one providing for their family. And he has a little sister who's a baby, and the mother's constantly leaving the baby unattended, and the mother's constantly strung out, and they owe back money on the rent, so it was just a crazy situation that both of them are dealing with, and both of them dealing with these tensions. They just butt heads, and Simone is kind of like the one trying to calm the waves. And and they almost came to blows, but Simone kind of smoothed it over. But there's a lot of tension between both of these young black men because these black men are dealing with some real deep, serious issues. And here it is, Simone was the one that introduced that they should go on Soul Train because at least it'll give them a platform in which they can actually follow their dream to becoming music artists. But JT ain't with it. He's just not, I don't give a damn. I'm not with that. But Kendall and Simone decide that, yeah, we're going to go for it. So then we actually see that Don actually goes to Club 100 in Los Angeles, and his intention is to meet with James Brown, but he meets immediate hostility, and Don ain't bending whatsoever. You know, there's goons, they're ready to shoot him up, and Don's not backing down because he says that, look, my mission is to talk to James Brown, and I'm not leaving here until I do. And this is when he meets Gerald Ames, who's the owner of the club. He calls the goons down, and he's kind of telling him, like, man, you crazy. There'll be people up in here that will shoot your ass up, and no one will never know. Like, you crazy coming up in here like that. But then he liked Don because he saw Don had initiative. Don wasn't somebody that was he wasn't the type of person that was gonna back down. He was a person that was gonna follow his vision, and him and Gerald share that commonality. They love their culture. They love the idea of the black man being in a higher place and our people being seen in a positive light. They share that commonality, and Gerald Ames becomes a very big, you know, part of Soul Train because he helps, you know, Don to meet some key people, and he tells him that, look, you're not gonna get James Brown right now, and you may not know this, but there are other top 10 acts you can go after. And he mentions Gladys Knight and that she's performing in Gary, Indiana. Let's go there. I can set it up for you to go there and meet her. And he was saying that, nah, I'm not going to pay to meet this woman. I'm just, you know, I'll go there and hopefully I can, you know, build a connection with her. So Gerald is a gangster as well. So he is notorious in the streets. But he's also very pro-black, very has an entrepreneurial spirit, and he's a guy that goes for what he wants, just like Don. So they become, you know, key partners, and they both had served in the war, so they definitely had that in common. They had that militant and that, you know, that power mentality, and both Gerald and Don Cornelius shared that. So we see that he ends up meeting Gladys Knight, and he also meets Gladys Knight in Gary, Indiana. And another thing that that Gerald and Don shared was that they also love the party. So, you know, we saw them sniffing cocaine, they getting drunk, they doing their thing. So we see that Don actually calls his wife to come, you know, meet him in Gary, Indiana, because, you know, he wants his wife there by his side when he meets Gladys. And Gladys Knight is played by the beautiful Kelly Rowland, and I must say, Kelly Rowland did a phenomenal job playing Gladys Knight. And we really got to see the true connection, because Gladys Knight and Don Cornelius became very close friends, and they were friends all the way up until the moment he died. And we're seeing how that whole thing began. And then we also see at this club in Gary, Indiana, we actually see Johnson, you know, the guy, I think his name was Robert Johnson. He was the head of Johnson Hair Care. And for those of us who are Soul Train fans, we remember Johnson Hair Care products being promoted, you know, that and Afro Sheen. So Soul Train was also a vehicle for black entrepreneurs, for black business creators. So it was a win-win for a lot of people across the board. So we saw Robert Johnson, who's the head of Johnson Hair Care Products, who became, you know, one of the sponsors, you know, of Soul Train. So then we see that Gladys Knight and Don Cornelius meet. She immediately tells him no, because the way he came off, he was coming off like a salesman, you know, and she says that, first of all, I ain't about that. You know, but then when he started to become honest with her and he revealed his true intentions, that, look, I lost 6 jobs in 5 years. And, you know, and he says that, and she asks him, so what do you see? And he says that, I see freedom, economic power. I mean, take Flip Wilson. You know, yeah, he's got a show or whatever, but, you know, who owns his show and who owns him? I'm talking about black ownership across the board. And our people being showcased for who we truly are. Strong, black, powerful, and beautiful. And I was like, you better lay it down. But that's how he got Gladys Knight. He got her for being honest and truthful. He didn't sell Soul Train. He pretty much gave her a vision, you know, of where he wanted to see his people. And that he wanted to create a platform where our people can be showcased in a positive light. And we see that go on. And she's like, I'm all with it. But, you know, she says, just do right by our people. I'm good. And we also see that, Tess, who's the dance director, she is literally had it up to here with Don Cornelius not giving her the respect that she wants. And she types up a letter of resignation, and then it's also crazy too, because they also show a scene where Simone and JT are singing the same song, and we see how both equally talented the both of them are, because they're boyfriend and girlfriend. And we see that he's working at some soul food restaurant, and the mother, the owner of the restaurant, she don't take no crap, and she's hardcore, but hey, she running a business. So he's outside playing his guitar. She comes up to him and tells him that, boy, don't you waste your talent up in here busting tables. You really got something, but right now I got a business to run, so get your ass in here and bust these tables down. So here it is, she believes in his talent, but at the end of the day, she got a business to run. And then we constantly see that he's dealing with a lot of issues at home. The rent's past due. He's trying to work out something with the landlord, but then one day he comes home, the damn landlord up in there screwing his mother. And he checks the landlord, says that you better not ever find you in my house like that again. And he's like, so what you gonna do? Y'all back rent. Don't act like I ain't doing you a favor, because I'm just taking the rent out your mama's ass and ain't shit you can do about it. So I'm like, yo, like, JT is really dealing with some serious issues and dealing with a whole bunch of negative things that are completely blocking him from chasing his dream. So he's like, yeah, dreams are great, but dreams ain't gonna pay my bills. I'm about the money. But one of the key ingredients of becoming a success is that you have to go for it despite of your current situation. You have to see your current situation as a stepping stone to get to where you need to go. But sometimes that can be clouded when you're dealing with a lot of negative forces. And then we also meet Simone and Kendall's mom, who's actually played by Kelly Price. And I have to say, Kelly Price doing a great job playing this role. She's a former singer, and she is a mother who cares about her children. She actually works for, I think she's like a nurse, and she's like working for like some rich white family. She's like a personal like nurse and caregiver, and she's doing what she got to do to make it. And their father is in Vietnam, and they showed a scene where they talk to their father on the phone, and the father is supposed to be coming home soon. And Simone telling her father about their plans. They mention JT. He's like, oh, who the hell is JT? So the family, the only people that really know about JT is the mother and the brother, Kendall, but JT ain't really included in the family because they don't really fuck with JT like that. But Simone loves JT, and they both share a dream, and you can tell in that scene where they're both singing the same song, they really do have a true connection. And then we also see a scene where Kendall has a fight with his baby mother, who's she's Mexican, and she's got a new boyfriend, but she's trying to tell him he need to come up with money for daycare. I can't do this on my own and all of that. So we're seeing that Kendall's dealing with issues being a young father, and then also he's being drafted to go serve in Vietnam, and he's kind of up in arms as to what he's going to do about that. And then it's also crazy too that when Don's wife arrived, I think in Gary, Indiana, to meet Gladys Knight, he was already messing with another woman, so she just left. And later on, him and his wife have a moment, and he wants his wife to move out to LA with him. He's gonna do what he's got to do, but she says, if I move to LA, we're not gonna make it, because I already see what's out there, and I already know what you're up against. And I don't want to get in the way of that. Follow your dream, but I want to stay here, and I want to make sure that our kids have a healthy upbringing. So she chose to stay there, and they kind of get into it because she mentions his infidelity, and he was saying that, that's not going to happen again. But then he kind of breaks down to her and like, I'm suffocating, and I got to go for my dream no matter what. And she comforts him. So we see that, his first wife really had his back. But we also see in this episode that his dream, that his success, he had to pay a price, and one of the prices he had to pay was the loss of his first wife, the mother of his children. So then, like, at the close of episode 1, they go back to 2012, where on February 1st, 2012, he's watching Soul Train, and he takes the gun and he blows his brains out. And that was the end of Don Cornelius. Episode 2, goes further into how the steps of how Soul Train became nationally syndicated. And we see that he meets a key player, this man named Bruce. And Bruce is pretty much a business magnate. He, he's great, finding advertisers and finding sponsors. And he tells Don that, look, you need a white boy to help you get those white dollars. So I'm your golden white boy that you need on the team. And when they first meet, they're looking at the pilot of Sanford and Son, and immediately he's turned off by the subject matter because, it's a black man in a junkyard. So it's a stereotypical show, but yet it was a starring vehicle for Red Fox. Red Fox is a comedic legend, and Sanford and Son is legendary to this day. I still watch some of those episodes. But then he was letting them know that, look, some of these backers of your show, you need me to help keep these people on, because one of their biggest sponsors was talking about dropping out. And the way they did that was smooth. But then, he definitely spoke Don's language about business, about creating a massive show that is going to pull people from all over. And he's saying, I can get endorsements like Coca-Cola and things like that. Like, I'm talking about landing some big endorsements where money ain't gonna never be an issue. So therefore we see that he hires Bruce as being his business agent. Then we also go back to Vietnam. One of the men gets shot, and we see Simone and Kendall's father, being there for the guy and letting them know that, look, everybody in your platoon was killed. You're the only survivor, and your leg is fine, but you're not going to be able to walk without a cane. And we're just seeing, like, some of the aftermath that a lot of people had to deal with during the days of Vietnam, where a lot of our young black men were going to war to die, but yet weren't getting treated fairly or equal within the country in which they served. So we're definitely seeing that, but then we're seeing how much of a strong militant man Kendall and Simone's father was. And then we see that he's about to go home, so they throw a big party, expecting him to show up. So then we still see Tess is really still getting pissed off about everything that's going on. But then we see later on, when they're actually auditioning for Soul Train, she gets where Don was coming from, saying that he wanted stars who were going to create a new dance craze. And she saw Simone and Kendall audition, and she loved their dance moves, so they were definitely her first pick. But then we also see another couple, Flo and Freeze. They're immediately jealous of Simone and Kendall because they're better dancers than they are. And we kind of see how there was a lot of tension with the Soul Train dancers, which they also mentioned in the documentary, The Hippest Trip in America. So then we also see in episode 2 that while that's going on, JT is still working at the soul food restaurant. He's trying to get more hours, but the mother cut him down and told him that, I need you out of here. And then he meets some former friends of his, this guy named Reggie, who you can tell is very militant, a strong black man who's about creating a family where we all look after one another. So they asked him to give him a ride So they ask JT to give them a ride home. They give him a ride. JT gives them a ride home, and they give him money, probably more money than he made that week. And he's like, "Oh, this was just dropping you off." He's like, "I'm gonna tell you something. See this right here? This is a family. We all look out for each other." You remember I said continuous revolution and progress. You know, we're gonna constantly, we're gonna constantly create a revolution every single day. So he sells JT on this idea that, look, we're a movement of black people who are gonna do everything to make sure that our people don't have to want for anything. So we definitely see that going on. And then we see that Tess writes her letter of resignation, but then she meets Bruce. Her and Bruce, she kind of backpedals a little bit, where she sees that now we got a white boy on our team. So she's starting to see that she's a part of something big, and she's beginning to see it, slowly but surely. And then we also see that Gerald Ames, he's pretty much an entrepreneur, and he's coming up with this new honey, and he's like, bees is money, and he's like, and he was trying to get Don and Gladys to try the honey, and he's like, yeah, you gotta try this honey, because this honey gonna make us rich. And later on, it does become successful, and he makes about $90,000 off of it. So we're seeing this birth of entrepreneurship within, where the black man is now creating things and creating our own market. So it's filled with all of that, and it was great. But then in this scene where he's meeting up with Gladys, and they're talking about her appearing on Soul Train for the first time, because she's agreed to do the show, but now they're talking about the music and all of that. And then we meet Elsa. Elsa is Gladys Knight's attorney from the label that she's on, and I think by this time she was on Buddha Records. So Elsa is hardcore, and she's that type of person that ain't gonna let no man tell her shit. She's very strong, very powerful, and has no problem cutting Don down. So there's already this tension between the two of them, because Don is a militant man. He don't like being told what to do. But then again, she's also a militant woman. And she immediately comes to the table, drops off a cease and desist, and saying that if you don't follow everything by that letterhead, Gladys, as well as any artist on our label, will not appear on your show. And you need us, so I suggest you follow suit. So immediately he ain't feeling her at all, because it's like, here this woman thinking she can boss up to me, because Don was powerful, and he definitely had an ego, and so does Elsa, and we definitely see that going on. But we kind of see that tension, I think, probably is going to turn into something later, but we just have to keep watching. So then we actually see JT actually goes out, he picks up Reggie and his friend, and he pretty much lets them know that, look, you the driver, and when you see anything suspicious, flick your lights. So now we come to find out how Reggie got all this money. Him and his boys be looting. They pretty much steal from the rich and give to the needy. And they had this conversation about the black diamond from Africa, and that the diamond is our resource, but yet, we see how the British have come and taken our land and taken our riches, and now we're out here with nothing, and they're profiting off of our resources, off of our discoveries. And I'm all about, steal from the rich, give to the needy. So we see that they actually go and create, they hit up this department store or something, whatever it is. But we saw them sneaking in because they're breaking in to rob the place. We see that there's cops there, and the cops show up, and he flicks the lights, and immediately they know something's up, and immediately the police, are ready to pull up. They pretty much pull their guns. The guys come out of the spot, and they have a shootout with the police, where one of the police officers gets shot, and one of their boys gets shot. So pretty much JT drives a getaway car, and they get away, but the cop ends up dying. And then we see later on Tess' husband, or her boyfriend, gets a call that he has to be on the scene. So we come to find out that Tess' boyfriend is a cop. Alrighty. Oh yes, and then so then we also see the actual first episode of Soul Train. We see that Simone gets she pretty much gets fooled by this girl Flo, who told her that her top wasn't all that appealing. You want to look good on TV, so let's go to the wardrobe room and we can find something better to wear. She takes Simone into the room and locks her in there because her and her partner want to get more shine, when yet Kendall and Simone were the best dancers, and she was threatened, so she threw it off. So when it came down to the Scrabble board, Flo and her partner would be on there instead of Kendall and Simone, who Tess originally wanted to be there. But she was stuck in the thing. She was stuck in the wardrobe room. Eventually, Kendall finds her and lets her out, and she goes to Flo, and they are about to duke it out on the fucking dance floor. The cameras are rolling. They going back and forth, talking buku shit to each other. Don, and also we see that Bruce brings in some of these white sponsors in here to help with the show. And earlier, the advertiser that was about to pull out, Bruce and Don show up to this guy. You know, he's this old white guy. He's, you know, butt ass naked in the jacuzzi. And what he does to kind of sweeten the deal, he brings in these two lookalikes. The black girl looks like Diane Carroll, and the white woman looks like Marilyn Monroe. So, you know, Don pretty much, you know, he kind of gave him a party favor. So the girls pretty much get undressed and they get in the tub with him. And then Bruce was like, yo, how did you know that this is something that would get him on our team? He was like, look, you a master at business, Bruce, but I know men. And I know, you know, a little greasing of the elbows will get anybody on your team. Now that he knows we looking out for him and we gonna get him these women, hell, you know, it ain't gonna be no issue. So they got their sponsor because Don pulled a boss move and got him some girls. So again, what I was talking about, Flo and Simona going back and forth, they fighting on the camera, and it's just going crazy. And Don goes in, militant as hell, shuts it down, and lets it be known, every time I have to stop that camera, that's $1,000. Any of you motherfuckers got $1,000 to give me? So cut the bullshit. We're gonna be shooting through everything, and I don't care what the issue is. You leave it out. You leave it outside. You don't bring it here, and you don't do it on my time. You just dance, and I better see dancing. So, of course, the sponsors, you kind of see that they're kind of looking some kind of way, but then Bruce lets them know the boss, they actually like that because they do it all the time, and they see that you're a boss, and they respect that you're a person that's about getting what you came to get, and you're not taking any bullshit or anything less than that. And then we're seeing that Tessa is looking at, you know, the show being unfolded and the dancers and all that, and you see that Tessa is now changing her mind about resigning. And, you know, she goes to Don's office because she gave him the letter of resignation, but he told her, I ain't got time. I ain't got time to deal with that shit. I got other things that I'm dealing with. You need to just go somewhere. So she threw the letter on his desk. She goes to his desk to pull it off, and he catches her, and he was like, what you doing in my office? And she was like, I just came to, you know, get the dance list. But then he gives her a compliment. He said, the dancers were great today. Thank you. So she did the right thing by pulling that letter of resignation, because now she sees that she now sees that he notices her for what she's bringing to the table. And that now she feels, okay, he recognizes me now. Because she felt underappreciated and just felt that Don was always coming down on her. But then now she's starting to get Don a little bit that, yeah, she got the idea. He wanted dancers that were going to be stars. And there were a lot of stars that came off of Soul Train. Rerun. Jeffrey Daniels and Jodie Watley. Rosie Perez. You know, so, you know, the Soul Train dancers were just as big stars as the acts that played on it, and just as Don. So I'm saying it was a star vehicle all across the board, and everybody wins and everybody can eat. So yeah, so we saw that go down, and then, you know, the first episode of Soul Train, they had Gladys Knight and the Pips, Honeycomb, great group too. Gonna put it in the walnuts. Yes. And also Eddie Kendricks. And then we see that Elsa is on set, like she told him that, oh yeah, I will be on set to make sure that Gladys follows, you know, our guidelines, and as long as she does what she's supposed to do, we're good. But anything other than that, we're gonna have a problem, because Gladys wanted to do an original song, but they pretty much let her know, like, no, she has to do whatever song that's out, and she can choose which one she wants to do, but she can't do no original music. So the song that she ends up doing is Friendship Train. And, you know, from that point, you know, they had no more issues booking acts after Gladys Knight and the Pips. They were groundbreaking. They were a part of history. You know, because him landing Gladys Knight and the Pips is what made Soul Train the national success that it became. So then we see also back at, you know, Simone and Kendall's family, their mother, who's played by Kelly Price, they're throwing this big party for their father to come home. And we did see their father get on the helicopter in Vietnam, so he's on his way home. But they get the knock on the door, and there's army officials. The father died on his way home. So probably leaving Vietnam, that helicopter probably got shot down. So we definitely see the mother break down, and it's like, wow. And then earlier at that party, Kendall has said that I'm thinking about joining Dad because I've been drafted to go to Vietnam, and, you know, I think I'm going to join Dad over there. And, of course, this definitely hurts the mother because she's definitely feeling the loss of the dad not being there, and now she's about to lose her son. But she pretty much says that she supports him, but then when the father died, that changed everything. And then we see JT, after that whole shootout went down, he rushes into his house or whatever, and we just see that, wow, JT really got a whole bunch of things stacked against him. The question is, what is he gonna do? You know, and how is it gonna play, you know, with his relationship with Simone and Kendall? And time will find that out. So then they see. So then after the episode, we see that Don and Gladys are out drinking, talking. You know, because they became very good friends. And she was saying that, look, life's a gamble, then you die. So then he asked her, what was that song that you really wanted to perform? And we actually see that the song was Midnight to Houston, but it will become the Midnight Train to Georgia. And she sings the song at the club, and she shuts it down. I have to say, Kelly Rowland did a phenomenal job playing Gladys Knight. I was so here for it. And it was everything. And then we also see at the end of the episode, Don, because throughout the whole episode, his wife has been trying to call him, but he's not been taking her calls. Tell her I'll call her later. She ain't heard from him in like months at a time. And then finally, when he calls home to his wife, we see that the wife is up, but she's in bed crying her eyes out because his dream, the price that was paid is that he lost his first wife. And she's just in bed crying. And I was like, wow. You know, so I'm saying that, hey, success can definitely, you know, there's a price to be paid for success. And Don definitely paid a price, you know, where his first marriage fell apart because he's in Los Angeles chasing his dream and doing his own thing while his wife's at home, and they weren't really hearing from each other nor seeing each other, you know, because she was still in Chicago and he was still in LA. So it was really deep. But yes, I definitely recommend this show. This show is phenomenal. I am so happy that they are doing this show and that they're doing it as a series because there's so much to discuss about Soul Train that a movie wouldn't do it justice. But a TV series, everything, because we're seeing how Soul Train was a mass movement that really took the black community to a higher level, not just in entertainment but also in business, as well as social awareness, and as well as image. So Soul Train was a serious meganaut for the black community as well as America. So that's what I have, y'all. If I missed anything, put it down in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But subscribe to my channel. Click that bell so you get notifications every time I drop a video. Also, follow me on all of my social platforms. I have them all listed in the description box. Also, like this video, comment on this video, and share this video. And I will be back with another episode of American Soul. I probably will be reviewing it either Wednesday or Thursday every week, because Tuesday I also do the haves and the have-nots. So I pretty much would be taping American Soul, and we'll probably do it either Wednesday or Thursday. So be on the lookout every Wednesday and Thursday for the review of American Soul. So until next time, everybody, take care.